Do not ever mess with Super Willy. Don't ever. What's up, everybody? This is Willy, and today I want to share a little fun story with you guys in relation to one of the best Roblox Outlaster runs that I've had, and that is the time that I was able to use one of the safety advantages to single-handedly dismantle a powerful alliance. So I'm going to tell the story of how that all happened and the context that led up to the moment that I made that huge move. So let's get right into the story. So let's just say the time that this happened predates back to the infancy stages of Outlaster, meaning around the late 2020 to early 2021. I don't particularly remember the exact time this event happened, but I do know it was still in the early months after Outlaster's initial release. So in that context, there will be no Redemption Island at all. Firmware along with the Last Chance advantage, which was just recently introduced just a few months back. So the game just plays out how it normally was before these features were introduced. So to start off, I was someone who was just solely addicted to the game of Outlaster, especially since it was released after the shutdown of its predecessor, Survivor, because copyright. So I was really invested into playing this game because Roblox was my go-to comfort game that helped me pass the time during COVID. And when this game was released, I was invested to it non-stop. So let's cut to the chase. So the game just plays out as naturally as it could have been. I just joined this server and get into the teams that I'm on, and I do notice that there is this group of players in the name of Father, Daughter, Mother, and other two that I don't remember their names, but I'll just call them Aunt and Uncle. But clearly they were in a big alliance, and a majority of them was on the tribe I was on. And because I was quickly able to observe what was going on, I already knew that they were going to be a very powerful force in the game if a move wasn't made for them. So I knew exactly that I had to take the shot at them when the chance was there. So our team was able to win the first immunity, and I quickly went and searched around the perimeters to find any sort of hint, and lo and behold, I do find some. And once I use the tools I need to retrieve to where the hint leads me to, I'm able to get the safety advantage, aka the idol. And every time I do get the safety advantage, I always have this gasping reaction. Because it's clearly the best advantage you can get in this game, because then you can make some moves with it. And now that I have the idol, I knew that I could leverage it to make that move I need against the majority alliance. So then that leads to what I call one of my most innovative strategies, and I would call it the AFK advantage bait, where advantage bait in general is something where players who have possessed these safety advantages purposely tries to get the votes casted against them so they can play it on themselves and nullify the votes against them, which that aspect is very risky and sloppy, where you're already ruining relationships with people, number one, but the biggest risk is the fact that if people are able to sniff out what you're blatantly doing, and if they happen to have the safety block advantage, they could use that against you, and your safety advantage will be nullified and you'll go home attempting to do the advantage bait. So with my strategy, I tweak it up a bit where, yes, I'm going to try and still get votes cast against me, but the way I'm going to do it is pretending that I'm AFK, also known as away from the keyboard, so that my character is not moving and that I would be the main cause for our team's challenge loss, so there will be a bullseye on my back, and that can give them the shock of their lives when they try to vote me out at the ceremony. And I do have a short that helps illustrate how this strategy works, so go check it out while you still can. And so back to the main story. I do believe we won another immunity challenge, so we were safe. So then we get to immunity challenge number 3, and that's when the challenge was perfectly suited for my strategy, since it's an obstacle course where team members will individually participate in. So I knew right away that I had to be AFK in order to get the blame for the challenge loss, and once I did, I just let my character sit there and stall the time as the other team kept scoring the points. And at the same time, when doing this strategy, I'm also observing to see who does well in the challenge, so maybe I can figure out who I'm gonna target that night. And someone like Mother was really acing it in the challenge, so she definitely was someone I was highly considering to take the shot at. So then we lose the challenge finally, and I still remain AFK just so I don't tip anyone off with what I'm doing, and I just watch as the majority of the lines make the declaration that I'm gonna be that target that night, with Father having to make this dramatic announcement that one must go, and unfortunately that's gonna be Willy, which sure. And to quickly disclose the dynamics on the tribe, 4 of them were in the majority lines, while one of them was also on the outs with me, who I'll name Betty, and she decided to side with the majority alliance to vote for me that night. So anyways, with me as the target that night and not one of them splitting the votes, I knew my plan was going to go through. However, I just need to know who I was going to go for. And although Mother was the first choice I had because she was a strong member, I started recognizing that Fodder was clearly the leader of the alliance, and he had such strong installation in the group that I feel like taking him out will completely fracture the alliance. And so my official target is going to be Fodder that night. So then we get to probably the best ceremony ever, where everyone goes to cast their votes, obviously. And once the host asks for an advantage to be played, that's when I jump back into the game, even though I was never AFK to begin with. But continuing on, I play my idol on myself, and everyone's minds were blown. Because obviously they wouldn't expect the AFK person to play a safety advantage on themselves. But do you mess with the wrong person, because you should never be certain in this game. Especially when you had your chance to split the votes, which you didn't. Which, by the way, after I saved myself with the idol, I decided to add a little more suspense and tension to the moment by faking the alliance out, saying that I voted for Betty, so that I can add more shock value to them, to the ceremony, when they find out who I truly voted for. And once all 5 votes against me were nullified, my single vote would take out Fodder, and that's when everything crumbled down. The reality hitting in hard for this alliance, blindsiding them to the core, to realizing that their alliance leader was just taken out in an ultimate blindside that they would have never saw coming. And some of the alliance members on the other tribe were incredibly shocked as well. So now we obviously get to the backlash that I get, because obviously every action has a consequence. And my actions resulted in a lot of hate for me, where Mother was just calling me a scary cat for some reason, while Daughter was just hating on me, cursing me out, and Father was just bidding his goodbyes. And then before he leaves the ceremony, he says, "I'm gonna miss all of you, except you, Willie!" But overall, this downfall was just glorious, and the fact that I had to be the one to single-handedly take the shot at this alliance goes to show how none of the players outside the alliance were truly trying to play a more cutthroat game, unlike me. So there's that, and after that, we're merging. So this is where it gets a little bit rocky, because now I have a target on my back for making this big move. However, earlier I did find a hint, and when I went to quickly dig it up before I went to the immunity, it happened to be another safety advantage. And I do recall also digging up a super safety as well, meaning I'm fully loaded with any sort of immunity if I'm vulnerable. So either way, I'm safe no matter what. But through that, with the merge round coming, everyone is pretty much eyes on me. But for the first individual immunity, it's Get a Grip, and this one's one that I'm truly a master at the time, and lo and behold, I win, which shocked everyone, especially the remaining alliance members, where they're just like in disbelief that now their biggest target is immune. And normally if I wanted to get cocky, I would be wanting to call the shots more, but I decided to just lay back on this next round, because I just think it's best to just test the waters to see where the dynamics hit. And we do see that there is a target between 2 people named Sam and Sarah, where the votes do tie between them, but ultimately the former does get the majority votes and is sent home. So then we get to the next individual immunity, and this should have been the one where I was completely screwed, because it's the tiles competition where you choose which tile you must go on, and normally this kind of challenge would favor the majority alliance, as they would just go for me in this spot, but somehow they all just sucked at the competition. And as I still remained in the challenge, people were just starting to leave the server because they didn't like the reality that I was going to win this game. And when you know, I do win the immunity challenge, which I'm still shocked by to this day, considering I should have lost this one easily, but turns out everyone is just so abysmal with how they compete that I was able to overcome their attacks. So then, since a lot of players left because I kept winning, we were now down to the final 4 already, in myself, Sarah, Mother, and Daughter. And since I'm immune, and knowing those two are together no matter what, Sarah was definitely doomed on that spot. But I did try to help her out by voting with her, but because of a lack of communication, we accidentally caused a 2-on-1 where I voted for Daughter while she voted for Mother, meaning that the 2 girls' votes against her sends her out. But this was a great opportunity for my jury management, because it was so poor up to this point, but thanks to me revealing to Sarah that I did not vote for her, it really gained her respect for me, which will pay dividends into the jury vote, where now it's the final ceremony between me, Daughter, and Mother, and they're just so desperate for the win so that they can mock my face while they still call me names and stuff. But only Sarah stayed for the jury, and she casted her jury vote for me to win, so that really helps me. And this is where we lead to the bonus categories aspect, where obviously Outlaster introduces this element where you need these like categories to gain more win points, and it'll usually occur if there's a minimal amount of jury members, so that way it can justify the right person winning. And we see it is pretty close between me, mother, and daughter, where daughter almost wins, but thankfully, thanks to the points favoring me with like my competition wins, my advantage search, and active exploration, I was able to get the points I need to win that server. And once I did, it was just phenomenal. And mother and daughter's reactions were just priceless, with them being in disbelief and crying to the spirit of father that they failed him, which you definitely did. And I'm just sitting here with such glory and satisfaction that I was able to win on top of the big move I made against them, which that itself makes this server one of the most spectacular runs that I've ever had. So yeah, I do wish I did have footage for this so I can really visually look back at how incredible this run was, because it really goes to show how much the hubris that this alliance had completely blow up in their face, thanks to my strategy and the gameplay that I was able to display to really show them who's truly boss. Now, I am kind of going on a high horse here, but you know what? That feeling with getting the win after everything that happened in that server just makes things so gratifying. And I feel like because of that, years later, I would come on YouTube and make a video articulating this story with all of you wonderful peeps. So thanks so much for tuning in to this story, and give this video a like and subscribe to my channel if you want to hear more stories in relation to Roblox or anything else. And with that, I'll see each and every one of you in another video.